Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Civic IO plenary session. As we get started, I'd like to invite our friend, the mayor of Little Rock, Arkansas, Mayor Mark Stodola, the president of our sister organization, the National League of Cities, to deliver some remarks. Mayor Stodola announced that he will not be running for re-election, meaning that this will be his last annual meeting with us. And I really want to take a moment to acknowledge Mark for his involvement in the U.S. Conference of Mayors as an elected member of our advisory board and as chair of the Ports and Exports Task Force. On behalf of the United States Conference of Mayors and all of our members all across this country, I want to thank Mayor Stodola for his commitment and service to the conference and to his own city. Please join me in welcoming Mayor Mark Stodola.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's good to see all of you here as we continue with this wonderful conference here in Boston with Mayor Marty Walsh, a good friend of mine and certainly a great leader for the city. You know, the National League of Cities obviously works very closely with the U.S. Conference of Mayors. We're truly partners together as we look at so many of the important issues that are facing our country. And our advocacy is really stronger together, and that's why it's such a great partnership to pull together an organization that is 95 years old, along with our own organization here at the U.S. Conference of Mayors celebrating its 85th year. And I want to congratulate Mayor Steve Benjamin, my dear friend, on his new role as president of the U.S. Conference. He gave a great motivational speech yesterday to really encourage us to speak out and to continue to advocate to our legislators about the importance of what happens in our cities, on our streets, and in our hallways. And so in this rapidly evolving environment, this political environment that we've seen come to bear here in the last couple of years, it's really important that we heed the call of a bipartisan solution to put a spotlight on the important issues that we know no partisanship in our cities and on our streets. And in Washington, where they have failed to act, cities have had no choice but to act. And that's where we mayors come in. And we as mayors and as the people that we help so often, we know that we're the ones that get the job done. But as any mayor knows, we cannot do it alone. Mayor Benjamin is supported by an amazing group here at the U.S. Conference with Mayor Barnett from Rochester Hills, and of course the inimitable Tom Cochran and his wonderful staff. The National League of Cities is proud to work very, very closely with the U.S. Conference, particularly this year, on our shared priorities dealing with infrastructure, to rebuild and to reimagine America's infrastructure. And so whether it's roads or bridges, whether it's broadband investment, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's automation, whether it's the workforce readiness that's so important to create the jobs of the future, it allows us as mayors to be the voice of what needs to happen with the new economy. And as we all know, these investments are best made with the expertise and know-how of mayors and local leaders in our cities. But we also know that we need a much stronger federal partner. We need to make sure that we have an infrastructure program that truly does rebuild this country and make it robust and make it the leader that it deserves to be in the world. So I want to thank all of the advocacy efforts that have been happening this week. Congress has taken a big step forward this week with the Water Resources Development Act, which passed the House with bipartisan support. And I look forward to making sure that the Senate takes up the America's Waters Infrastructure Act and that Congress sends a bill to the President's desk before the end of the year. I know that between the National League of Cities and the U.S. Conference of Mayors, we can press this issue forward and see success. And going forward, I hope, as Mayor Benjamin mentioned, I've had the great opportunity to chair the Ports and Exports Task Force, which deals with not only just the seaports of our country, but also the inland waterways and the ports throughout America that help to bring over 45% of our goods and commodities to market. I hope we can develop this partnership in a way to speed up the use of the Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund. There's $9.5 billion that is locked up that would go a great way toward that amount of money that we're looking for the issues of infrastructure and infrastructure funding from Congress. So it's up to us to keep the pressure on and to continue to deliver a strong and unified message to Congress. We want to rebuild and reimagine, and we want to rebuild with us, the National League of Cities and the U.S. Conference of Mayors. I want to thank you so much for your continued results-driven partnership. And as Steve said, I've decided to cap my tenure as mayor at the end of 12 years. I remember going to my first annual meeting in 2007. I looked at several of our mayors who've become mayors since then, and only can imagine the course of dialogue and direction and creativity you're going to receive as you continue on with your stewardship of your cities by coming to these meetings and learning and listening and making the great friendships that we have. I want to tell you that those friendships are very, very rewarding, and we're going to, in a few minutes, recognize some people with some great awards, and certainly I've been honored to stand here before this group in the past to receive many, many awards on behalf of the city of Little Rock. We couldn't have done it without the U.S. Conference of Mayors. I'm very proud of what the U.S. Conference of Mayors has done. We've had some great ideas that we've been able to implement back in our city, and I know we're going to continue to do that with the leadership of new leadership next year. I, for one, want to tell you that I don't plan on saying goodbye necessarily. This is going to be my last annual meeting. I hope to be at and I plan to be at the leadership meeting in September in Columbia. But it's my opportunity to say goodbye to all of you, at least in this version. I hope that I'm going to be able to come back. I want to thank all the corporate partners that we have that have made it possible for us to be able to bring back some awards to our cities. And I hope that I have an opportunity to work with many of them as well in terms of bringing important issues and important ideas and functions to cities in the future. Thank you so much.
Mark, thank you so much, brother. We're now ready to learn the winning cities for the 2018 Wells Fargo and USCM Community Wins Grant. Wells Fargo's Home Mortgage Senior Vice President and Housing Foundation Executive Director Martin Sundquist will be announcing the awards. For those of you who didn't hear Martin speak yesterday at our business breakfast, Martin is the Senior Vice President of Customer and Community Programs and head of Wells Fargo's Housing Foundation at Wells Fargo Home Lending. He oversees all the national philanthropic initiatives, community outreach, military team member support programs, and the integration of sustainable home ownership support programs across Wells Fargo and their affiliates and the Wells Fargo Bank. Please welcome to the stage Martin Sundquist.
Thank you, Mayor Benjamin. Good morning. Well, as Mayor Benjamin said, my name is Martin Sundquist, and I have the privilege of serving as the director of the Wells Fargo Housing Foundation. And I had the pleasure to be with you yesterday talking about a number of things. And I'm so excited to be at this year's conference celebrating what we're accomplishing together and announcing the 2018 Community Wins recipients. I think back to 2015 when Wells Fargo launched Community Wins, a unique public-private partnership, a collaboration aimed at providing support to local nonprofits for long-term economic prosperity and the quality of life for their communities. What started out as a 3-year, $3 million grant program has grown into $6 million, an investment by Wells Fargo Foundation over the next 6 years, extending to the year 2020. Community Wins is an example of how private and public sectors can work together to bring real solutions that address local economic challenges in cities throughout the country through neighborhood revitalization, economic development, and job creation. Like all of you here today, Wells Fargo cares about people and communities, and we continue to build a better bank, putting our customers and communities first in everything that we do. Together, the U.S. Conference of Mayors and Wells Fargo truly is changing lives by strengthening communities, by assisting in rebuilding and supporting neighborhood revitalization. I want to thank all of you for your leadership and your commitment to making life better for individuals and communities across the nation. The efforts of everyone in this room are simply incredible. We know there's more work to be done, and we are ready to do the work. Together, the U.S. Conference of Mayors, nonprofits, and Wells Fargo are making and will continue to make significant and lasting change. In January, the U.S. Conference of Mayors announced a call for Community Wins applications, and I'm happy to share that we had 188 applications. An independent panel of judges selected recipients from those applications representing small, medium, and large cities. The passion and vision in all the applications demonstrates an amazing leadership from all of you and the nonprofits. So now, for the 2018 Community Wins grants, please turn your attention to the video screens. I will begin with the category of small city. These are mayors and nonprofits from cities that have a population of 75,000 or less. In the three population categories, there will be 2 grants to city-based nonprofit organizations for a total of 6 grants. In each category, there's 1 mayor who has been recognized for an outstanding achievement grant, and 1 mayor will be presented with a first place award. Our first $50,000 grant for small city outstanding achievement is presented to Rochester Hills Mayor Brian Barnett and the Community Foundation of Greater Rochester for the Pathway to Public Service program.
Good morning, mayors. Glad that some of you are here at 9:30. Hey, listen, we are so grateful to be here today accepting this award. I want to thank Martin and the Wells Fargo team and certainly all the staff here at the Conference of Mayors who put this together. I don't know how many of you know this, but over this a short time that we're together, the conference is going to give out over $1 million to cities across the country, and we're excited to, on behalf of the City of Rochester Hills, accept our small share today. We have created an innovative program called the Rochester Hills Pathway to Public Service, and we recognize that one of the challenges we have is that most of the employees in my community are close to 50. Our senior leadership is close to 60. So we're going to use this money to create something that has never been done, to invest in the students that are leaving the community colleges and the colleges in our community, to get them engaged in local government, to grab the next group of innovative leaders to help move our community forward. We think it's replicable, and we wouldn't be able to do it without the great folks at Wells Fargo. So thank you so much for this, and we appreciate it. God bless. Thanks.
All right, our first place small city is presented to Youngstown Mayor Jamal Tito Brown with a $150,000 grant on behalf of the Youngstown Neighborhood Development Corporation for Revitalize Youngstown. Mayor Brown?
Good morning, mayors. I want to take this time to thank Wells Fargo for your partnership, U.S. Conference of Mayors for your partnerships. I heard a quote by Michael Jordan who said, "Players win games, teams win championships." And I believe this is a part of a team effort to make sure that the neighborhoods in Youngstown, Ohio, that we are revitalizing one street, one block, and one neighborhood at a time. So I appreciate you. I commend you for looking out for Youngstown, Ohio. We will put this to good use. God bless you, and have a great day.
And now I will present the 2 medium city grants. These are mayors from populations of 75,000 to 250,000. The $50,000 grant for medium city outstanding achievement goes to Mayor Pete Buttigieg on behalf of the near Northwest neighborhood for building inclusion, South Bend Minority and Woman Contractor Training Program. Mayor Pete?
Thank you. I want to thank Wells Fargo for supporting such important work and thank the U.S. Conference of Mayors for creating these opportunities. Not that long ago, at the beginning of this decade even, South Bend was appearing on national rankings and listings of American dying cities. Now, as the decade is coming to a close, we're experiencing the fastest population growth in a quarter century, economic investment, but the challenge of our time is to make sure that that recovery is inclusive. With support from this program, we're going to be able to work in the near Northwest neighborhood, one of the most vital, one of the most diverse, and in many ways one of the most challenged, but also one that's blessed with a strong organization, a CDC in the near Northwest, that is accepting responsibility not only for making sure we do business with diverse contractors, but for building up their ability to compete in the first place. We are thankful for the support and look forward to our continued partnership. Thank you.
Our first place Medium City grant for $150,000 goes to Dayton Mayor Nan Whaley on behalf of Greater Dayton Union Cooperative Initiative for Gem City Market.
Well, good morning. It's great to be here. I want to thank Wells Fargo and particularly the U.S. Conference of Mayors for this partnership. The work that community leaders are doing for the Gem City Market is creating an employee and community-owned grocery store in a food desert in our community. We know as mayors the disruption of retail and the effects it's having for particularly our low-income communities, and the work that they're doing and the help that we're receiving to make this vision a reality so people can have fresh produce, quality foods, and wraparound services that they need in this community will make a great difference. And so I appreciate the leadership of the Conference of Mayors and invite you all to come to Dayton when this becomes a reality very, very soon. Thank you.
And now I will present two final large city grants. These are mayors from cities with populations more than 250,000. The $75,000 grant for outstanding achievement goes to Boston Mayor Martin Walsh on behalf of the Year Up Greater Boston for the Year Up Greater Boston's Workforce Development Program at Roxbury Community College. The award is being accepted by Bob Dame, Executive Director of Year Up Boston. Bob?
Good morning. I first of all want to, as you can tell, I'm not Mayor Walsh. I want to take a moment and thank Wells Fargo and the U.S. Conference of Mayors for this award. We're especially grateful to Mayor Walsh's team for their partnership on the application process. YERP's mission is to close the opportunity divide, and we know that there are millions of young adults who have talents and skills, but they don't have the opportunity and access. We also know that there are millions of jobs that go unfilled every year, and so our goal is to provide those young adults with the skills to fill those jobs. And this award will help us to serve many young adults, many more young adults through our partnership with Roxbury Community College. Our community college model is how we will continue to scale the program. So again, I want to thank Wells Fargo, the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and Mayor Walsh for his support. He's been a tremendous support to us, so thank you.
Let's continue to our final large city first place grant for $300,000, which goes to Long Beach Mayor Robert Garcia on behalf of Pacific Gateway Workforce Partnership for the citywide market for hourly labor. Mayor Garcia.
Well, thank you, and of course, good morning. And we want to thank, of course, Wells Fargo and the conference for being so supportive of our work, and to our Workforce Gateway network as well. In Long Beach, we were trying essentially to support those that are part of the informal economy. These are folks that might be dog walkers, Lyft drivers, someone that's selling their goods on the weekend, maybe at a thrift shop or a swap meet, and ensure that they are part of the larger marketplace. And so we're trying to connect them to an online marketplace, connect them with other folks that are doing business, that want to expand their skills in their work, and make sure that we're addressing income inequality at all levels, especially for those that are doing a lot of part-time work and a lot of informal work. And so it's an exciting project, it's innovative, and we again want to thank everyone for the award and for the generous fund. So thank you.
Well, congratulations to all of the mayors and nonprofit partners who have received a 2018 Community Wins Grant. Thanks to all of you for your amazing work and for what you're doing to help others. On behalf of Wells Fargo, we look forward to continuing this relationship and bringing more positive change to local municipalities in collaboration with the U.S. Conference of Mayors. I want to thank you and enjoy the rest of your conference. And now, Mayor Benjamin, I return the program back to you. Thank you.
Hey, Martin, thanks again for your support and for Wells Fargo's support of these incredibly important programs. Congratulations to our winners. I do want to take an opportunity to encourage all of you to apply for the various awards and presentations. It makes a difference and to take something back home to our various cities. We're about to kick off the Civic IO Plenary, naming it after the wonderful summit that the Conference of Mayors hosts with the city of Austin at South by Southwest. This event started in 2016 and has quickly become a fixture during the Conference of Mayors schedule every March. I want to invite the host of Civic IO, the Mayor Summit, the Mayor of Austin, and the chair of our Technology and Innovation Task Force, Steve Adler, to the stage. Steve?
So we like to say and to think that Austin's a magical city with a special spirit and soul, and quintessential Austin is South by Southwest. Started a little over 30 years ago as a music festival in our city, morphed into an event which included a film festival, and then further evolved to cover interactive innovation and education. And now we like to say that South by Southwest is the World's Fair of the future. Today, people from all over the world gather to South by Southwest to imagine possibilities and to help great ideas become real. It was a place where Twitter was effectively launched. That's why it made perfect sense for mayors and the U.S. Conference of Mayors to intersect with South by Southwest. And they joined together to create what's called Civic IO. It's the Mayor's Summit at South by. Think of it kind of as a space camp for mayors, but instead of talking about interstellar travel, you have mayors that are geeking out on the intersection of innovation and municipal policy. This past March, and it happens every March, this past March about a little over 25 mayors came to Austin to tackle big civic municipal challenges. Mayors spoke on panels on important items and issues. They met with entrepreneurs from around the world. We hosted a conversation between the mayors in the United States here and the mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. The mayors individually were set up with a team of futurists, and then the mayors, each of them individually with that team, created a vision for their cities for the year 2030 in a session that was called Civic Imagination. And in what is a classic Austin tie, we turned civic imagination into art, and artists that were embedded in each of those teams with the mayors created posters to reflect the work that had been done. And if you go outside the hall here, you can see some of those posters on display. So now, looking forward, I'm excited that the U.S. Conference of Mayors agenda, under the leadership of President Benjamin and Vice President Barnett, focusing on the 3 I's, in infrastructure, inclusion, and innovation. So next March of 2019, Civic IO is going to be focusing on the pillar of innovation. And we're going to bring in innovators again around the world to work with mayors to tackle the challenges that we face and to drive innovation to all of our cities, because mayors handling challenges with innovation is the new normal. So I invite y'all to come visit Civic IO in Austin in March of 2019. So the Civic IO team is here, and if I could ask them to stand. I understand there might be some folks out here, or maybe they're all in the back. No, here they are. Here's the Civic IO team. So I want you to find some of those folks, learn a little bit something about this unique event, and to talk about it, to give you a little bit more background on it. We have South by Southwest's Chief Programming Officer, Hugh Forrest, who is just one of the treasures that we have in Austin, Texas. Hugh.
Good morning, and slightly different. So, good morning. My name is Hugh Forrest. I am the Chief Programming Officer at South by Southwest. I'm going to talk about South by Southwest and Civic IO Explained, why the most innovative and creative people come to March every spring in Austin. Today is my second year to talk at the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Great honor to be here in front of so many great forward-thinking leaders. My goal over the next 5 minutes is to help you understand what I call March magic. South by Southwest, as the mayor explained, is education and music and film and gaming and technology. It is 1,000 or more panels, a trade show, and tons of networking. But perhaps even more important than those little details is the South by Southwest mission statement. South by Southwest dedicates itself to helping creative people achieve their goals. That was our mission 30 years ago. That is our mission now. The fact that it happens in a very creative city, Austin, Texas, makes it all work. We do this by connecting registrants, attendees with some of the most creative and innovative leaders out there. People like Elon Musk, who spoke at South by Southwest 2018. Mayor Sadiq Khan, as Mayor Adler mentioned, was a great speaker this past year. Dr. Fei-Fei Li, who heads up artificial intelligence for Google, was one of our speakers as well. Barry Jenkins, the director of the film Moonlight, was a keynote speaker for South by Southwest Film. Melinda Gates talked about her philanthropic efforts, as well as her efforts to create more empowerment for females. Senator Mark Warren talked about his work. Senator Mark Warner talked about his work, particularly with the Russian investigation. The author Ta-Nehisi Coates was one of our keynote speakers, and great to have him involved. Katie Couric talked about her journey over the last 30 or 40 years in the news arena. Kara Swisher, who is the editor of Recode, was also one of our speakers. Esther Perel, Dr. Esther Perel, she is an author. She has a very famous TED Talk. She talked about the future of relationships. Tim O'Reilly, a futurist from the O'Reilly Networks, talked about his new book, W2TF, which is What the Future. Bozoma St. John from Uber talked about her efforts to humanize that brand. Amy Webb, who is a futurist, talked about her top 10 trends for 2019. Spike Lee was also a speaker this year. Josephine Gobet came over from Paris. She runs an organization called TechFugees, which helps refugees learn technology. Eddie Q, who's number 2 at Apple, talked about some of the things that Apple is doing these days. Whitney Wolf, one of our great entrepreneurs from Austin, talked about Bumble. Ernest Klein, who is the author of the book Ready Player One and also an Austin resident, talked. We had the Prime Minister of the Republic of Ireland talking about what he is doing, and this was backstage, him meeting with Governor Schwarzenegger, one of the many serendipitous connections that happens in an event like South by Southwest. A-Rod spoke, and why better to show a A-Rod slide than when you're doing a presentation in Boston. Ray Kurzweil from Google, Dean Kamen, the inventor of many things and working on prosthetics now. Damon John from Shark Tank talking with another famous Austin resident, Dan Rather, and then Roy Spence, who will follow me on stage in just a second, talking with his friend Matthew McConaughey. So in addition to those big name speakers, we have approximately 3,000 up and coming voices. South by Southwest is very much about what is up and coming, what is next. These are thought leaders that you haven't heard of yet, but you will hear of soon. These up-and-comers typically are talking about ahead-of-the-curve ideas, topics that you may not be familiar with yet, but need to understand soon, particularly as leaders of your respective cities. These are topics like blockchain, virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, journalism, the future of journalism in a fake news world, various issues related to social good, including inclusiveness, which I know is a huge topic at this event. Future of food is also very popular at South by Southwest. Future of healthcare, where healthcare is going, the healthcare of tomorrow. Part of that is connected to wearables and wearable technology. We also do a lot of focus on what I'll call DNA 2.0, particularly CRISPR and the ability to edit genes. Internet of Things is also very important, and how that connects with big data. Of course, people are very, very interested in artificial intelligence from many, many angles, not the least of which is how that impacts the job scene, and will robots take all of our jobs? Transportation is also a huge focus. This is one of many renderings of one of the self-driving, one of the flying cars of the future. Delivery is also important as well. Startups are a big, big focus at South by Southwest, as Mayor Adler said, and certainly in the context of this meeting, smart cities, very, very important as well. Over the last 3 years, we've made South by Southwest even better with Civic IO. This is the part of the event, as Mayor Adler explained, that brings together some of the nation's most innovative, most creative thinking mayors. The dates for Civic IO for 2019 are March 8th through 10th. Dates overall for South by Southwest are March 8th through 16th. Let's learn more about Civic IO via this short video, but before that, you can always email me, hugh@sxsw.com, for more information. Thanks for your attention this morning. Thank you. Hope to see you in Austin in March. And let's run that video.
We are so excited to be back in Austin for this truly unique Civic IO Mayor Summit at South by Southwest, hosted by the U.S. Conference of Mayors.
There's no place like this in the United States for American mayors.
All of the opportunities that are available through the conference make sure that we're successful. That's what being a part of this organization is all about.
And there's no better place to come and learn, what is the cutting edge than coming to South by.
You come here and you're with people that you would never spend the day with.
Some of the most talented and creative thinkers and entrepreneurs in the world gather here. As the mayor, I think it's kind of a magical place. This is where good ideas come to become real. Thanks for being part of it.
The mayor's program here has really been kind of intellectually challenging. They really have asked us to think outside the box.
Well, we've talked a lot about looking at the future. Obviously, nobody's got a crystal ball, but we do know that what we do today will affect us in 15, 20, 30 years.
I think you all are perfectly positioned between this grand vision. What's your city? What's the story? What's the future of it going to be? So if they are taking the reins of the future, they might as well learn how to get good at it.
We need to systematically explore the variety of possibilities. And so what we did was use a game to do that. When you think about the world in the year 2030, on the whole, do you imagine it to be better than the world that we live in now, or worse?
We identified as either being optimistic about the future and optimistic about our chances to impact the future.
We created these scenarios and we start picturing different futures for different cities, including our own. They paired us up with architects and futurists, designers, people who could help us see a bigger picture.
We had a lens from the business perspective. We had a lens from nonprofits. We had a lens from different countries and what was happening there.
He was the first Muslim to be elected mayor of a major Western capital and shook the world with a smile when he was elected. Mayor Khan, welcome to be interviewed by our great mayor of Dayton, Nan Whalen.
In this century, the action is going to be in cities and with mayors. They're far more fleet-footed. They're far more responsive to the opportunities and challenges of city.
What is a collection of mayors called? I call them a can-do of mayors.
Right.
You just do stuff. You can do. You just get up and do it. Or as I say it, a can't-do of mayors.
If you're a mayor of a city, it's one of the best places to be because you can think long-term, but take action today. And there's not many places that you can do that in government.
I think that's why mayors, and America's cities are really going to be the incubators for innovation moving forward.
And how do I think about the limits of my city's power? The answer is I don't think about the limits of my city's power. I think about the potential of my city's power.
As great as the sessions were, some of my favorite parts of this weekend have been just the time spent over meals and exploring with other mayors and other people who work on cities for a living.
I think there's a total willingness among mayors to share good ideas, share information, share knowledge, and always reach out and help another mayor.
Every year I brought back like real tangible things for the city, as well as new ideas and new ways to think about problem solving. This year's no different.
It's our third year doing the Civic Tech Pitch, and this is probably the strongest group of finalists we've ever had.
We measure the concentration of opioids and other drugs in sewage in order to estimate consumption in neighborhoods.
This is amazing. I love it. It's amazing.
First place winner is BioBot Analytics.
We really do think this week, this is the World's Fair of the future. It's just an exciting and fun place to be. And the friendships that I've formed in this are some of the most valuable moments for me of this mayor's job. So I just want to thank everybody for that.
If we can take what we're learning here and bring it back home, and have the conference's support and the support of other mayors to actually be productive, then the future is very bright, and I'm very optimistic about what lies ahead.
So that's Franklin's Barbecue. At the end there's usually about a 2-hour wait, no reservations. But the Conference of Mayors gets in there on Sunday night, which might be the most valuable aspect of the entire South by weekend. We didn't get a chance to bring any of that barbecue with us here for this presentation, but we did bring some of the elements of Civic IO here from Austin to Boston. And in just a few minutes, you're going to see the winning tech pitch from this past Civic IO, BioBot Analytics that you saw receiving the award. Part of the prize was the ability to be able to come to this conference and explain what it was that what they do. And just off screen, we have just a group of pretty nervous and excited entrepreneurs, because we're going to have our own pitch contest here. You know, you go to South by, and there are a lot of people that are there because they just really enjoy seeing what is the next generation technologies, just because seeing the new technologies is fascinating and exciting. But the mayor's presence at South by brings something very different, because it's not about the technology, it's about what the technologies can do. And it's that practical perspective that we with Civic IO and U.S. Conference of Mayors brings. We also are bringing elements of the mayors as futurists. We're going to be doing that workshop, recreating part of it today at 4 o'clock this afternoon in the Harvard room on the 3rd floor. We're going to have futurists there because the mayor is futures. It's going to include Jake and Stuart from the Governance Futures Lab. You saw them in the video. And they'll run mayors that want to participate through some exercises to train you to think about the future differently and to give you tools to take back home to your city to train others to be futurists. But before we get to those elements, I want to introduce to you, so we get to hear from Roy Spence, who you also saw in the video. He's the founder of the Promised Land Project. He spoke about it and launched that project at South by Southwest. Roy is the co-founder and chairman of GSD&M, which is a leading marketing, communication, and advertising company. He is the co-founder and CEO of the Promised Land Institute. It's a consulting firm that helps people and organizations discover and live their purpose. The Promised Land Project is a marketing campaign that works to bridge the cultural divides in America by unleashing the unifying power of purpose. Like I said, it was kicked off at South by this past March. It is another example of the kind of forward-looking new ideas that you'll take home with you if you come and attend this space camp. and we want to invite everyone to come and participate. And with that, please give a big welcome to my friend Roy Spence.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mayor, for that great introduction, although well-deserved. Hi. A shout out to Hugh, who founded South by Southwest. A shout out to my daughter, Courtney Spence, and her business partner, Courtney, who has a marketing firm in San Francisco, and Matt Curtis and John Poland. Mainly a shout out to the mayors here, because I believe firmly you're the creators of America's future. So I don't look at you as a coalition of mayors. I look at you as a coalition of leaders. I don't look at you as Democrats or Republicans. I look at you as public servants trying to serve the greater good in a fairly opinion-rich environment. I look at you more driven by purpose than politics. So I'm glad to be here. Thank you. I always like to suck up to the crowd first, but I've been thinking about the purpose of America for a long time, and purpose and promise of America. And about 1.5 years ago, I was climbing Mount Sopris. Anybody know where that is? Carbondale, Colorado. And I was about halfway up, and I'd just seen Apollo 13 for the 100th time when Tom Hanks said, "Houston, we have a problem." And I looked around so that nobody was around, and I said out loud, "America, we got a problem. We have a marketing problem," stay with me, in America. All we hear is from America, as American citizens, is the political dividers on the national stage who are, it's seemingly designing by design, a culture of us versus them in this country. I'm done with us versus them. Are you? We have to, because us versus them is not the purpose of America. The first motto of the United States of America was E pluribus unum, out of many, one. Us versus them is not the promise of America. The promise of America was, and has to be again, and you're on the front lines of this, that if you're willing to work hard and take responsibility, every single American should have the chance to live up to their God-given potential. Us versus them is the enemy of the American ideal. The American ideal is when we're at our best, we build a high-performing, job-creating, all-inclusive culture of purpose, prosperity, and a culture of us, as in USA. So I decided to take on America as my client, pro bono. Really. And we're going to spend the next 8 years of our lives, the marketing community, the purpose-driven marketing community, marketing the best of America to America. So welcome to the Promised Land Project. We launched it at South by Southwest. Let me tell you the key elements. Number one, the Promised Land Project, we're going to market that we've got to respect the dignity of all work again. We've got to kill the myth that a 4-year college degree is the only path to success. It's wrong, it's un-American, and we need to skill up America. We're going to market this. God made us all different, and yet we judge our kids just on standardized tests. Don't get me off on this. Testing is important, but we've got to get Clifton Strength Finders or other assessments into our public schools so we can transform our schools just from teaching and testing to talent development and coaching. We've got to champion entrepreneurship again. It's the miracle of America. Only 2% of our public schools teach it. We got to get our young people believing if they can dream it, they can build it. One of the key points of the Promised Land, we're going to celebrate and shine a light on you. The mayors, the cities, the small towns, the heartland, because you are the people who will create the future, not the Beltway. So if you go to promisedlandproject.com, you'll see some videos that support this. Here's one of them, if we could play that one video.
It's the dawn of a new age, an age where lawmakers in D.C. aren't the only change makers in America. The most innovative ideas and the smartest solutions to our toughest problems are coming, not from the Beltway, but from our cities and our heartland. We need Washington to seek them out and scale them up, not reinvent them. It's no surprise that America's next best hope is America itself.
That was my daughter's voice. It was good. Another final piece. If we're going to build a culture of us in America, we got to walk in each other's shoes again. So in the middle of my talk, which was fabulous, it's out by Southwest, Matthew McConaughey comes out with a dart in his hand. All right, all right. What are you doing here, Matthew? And behind him was this big map of the United States of America. He said, well, Roy, brother, if you're going to walk in other people's shoes, I'm going to throw a dart, and wherever it goes, we're going. And it landed at Watford City, North Dakota. Anybody here from North Dakota? God bless you. By the way, do you know on North Dakota's flag, it has E pluribus unum, out of many one? We're coming to North Dakota in the fall. We're going to walk the factories and the farms. We're going to walk the places of worship. We're going to walk the schools. We're going to build front porches so we can talk again and get to know each other again. Could you put up that last slide? This is what we're coming in. And when kids come into this, once we build it, they can take tests on assessments on whether or not they could be electricians or welders or whatever. Community colleges are going to be our partners in this. This is not for the tired or the timid. This is not kumbaya. We, and if you will help the Promised Land Project, we're going to go to all 50 states in the next 8 years because in 2026, America is celebrating its 250th birthday. And I want to also re-celebrate a culture of us, as in USA. If we do it together, we got work to do, but we can do this. God bless you. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Steve and Roy. This is exciting, and I will tell you, I want to thank them for bringing their leadership to this wonderful event every year. It's my pleasure now to transition us into the mayor's matchup civic tech pitch. Last month, the Conference of Mayors put out a call for all civic tech startups to apply to pitch their ideas to the stage. We received over 40 applications, and the team helped review all of them and selected the 5 finalists that you're going to see today. Before I go over the rules, I'd like to introduce our 4 mayoral judges. West Sacramento Mayor Christopher Gabaldon, Tacoma Mayor Victoria Woodards, Oklahoma City Mayor David Holt, and Miami Mayor Francis Suarez. They're going to be much better behaved than the people on that Shark Tank show, okay? Here are the rules for today's pitches. Each of our 5 finalists will have 5 minutes to pitch their product. You can see there'll be a countdown clock up on stage, and at the end of the 5 minutes, you'll hear a buzzer that lets them know that the time has expired. After each pitch, our panel of mayoral judges will be able to ask questions for 3 minutes. Everyone in the audience will be able to participate as well. If you open up the Civic IO plenary session inside the USC mobile app, you can also vote along in the tech pitch. With the rules out of the way, let's meet our first contestant, Nathan Armentrout of Casper Security. Nathan?
All right. So hello, my name is Nathan Armentrout, CEO of Casper Security, and we're protecting families, preserving properties, and providing hope for communities that are afflicted by abandoned properties. This is George and Gail. They're two of the nicest folks I've ever met, but they have a serious problem. They live next to one of Louisville's 5,000 abandoned properties. And as you know, these properties wreak havoc on our communities. From everyday simple annoyances to the erosion of their home values, to worse yet, being a safety threat to the neighbors living next door and to your emergency responders who go to these places and deal with the problems that happen there. It's a mess, and that's where the city of Louisville was in 2015. We were having hundreds of vacant property fires that would go from one house to the next, putting some of our city's most vulnerable families in grave danger. The city of Louisville looked for a warning solution but couldn't find one. And so they did something bold. They hosted a competition and challenged the tech community to solve this problem. And that's where we came in. The three founders of Casper Security used our engineering talent to develop a prototype in 1 week, and then over the following months, continued to polish that into our first product, Casper, the completely autonomous solar-powered event responder. And what Casper does is very simple. It listens for smoke detector sirens to happen inside these vacant and abandoned properties, and then alerts both the neighbors and the city at the same time to the potential for danger. And better yet, Casper works without having power or connectivity at these houses, so it can work just about anywhere. We tested these devices in 15 different houses over the course of 6 months to prove the technology, and we had success beyond what we were expecting. We caught 2 smoke detectors going off inside this small pilot, and then had 0 false positives over the course of that period. So we knew Casper was working. But we haven't stopped there. We've continued developing Casper, making it smaller, more power efficient, and being able to add sensors to Casper to provide more value. We are now able to detect squatters being in and around the properties, and we can add just about any wireless sensor to the device so you are able to measure what you need as a city. For example, with Casper here, we typically install it inside the window of an abandoned property. We put smoke detectors in the places where fires normally start, and put motion sensors by the doors so you know when people are breaking in. And if the property has something valuable, perhaps your land bank is trying to resell that property, we can tag a tamper sensor and make sure that valuable property doesn't get stolen or destroyed. Anytime those sensors trigger an event, we send it to a web portal so your law enforcement and code enforcement departments can understand what's happening in these neighborhoods in real time and make better day-to-day decisions about where to allocate your valuable resources. And that's a big deal because vacant properties are a huge issue in our communities. There are millions of them spread across the country, and it's been a growing trend for decades, which was incredibly surprising to me. And that's what makes Casper so valuable, because normally when you're working with demolition, it's a hard, slow process to get through. We're a scalable solution for that, where we started from 1 device and grown it up to 150 that we're deploying in Louisville, Kentucky this summer, and 30 more in Kansas City, Kansas. And we're looking to add your cities next to this. Casper is a solution that makes everybody happy, from your city directors who feel more empowered that they can actually do more for less, and of course the neighbors and residents, because they can see government working for them at a faster pace than they've ever seen before. So here's the million-dollar question, mayors. If you had $1 million to spend on vacant property issues, what would you choose to do today? Because $1 million gets you 80 houses raised in a community. But with Casper, we can do 750 monitoring the houses and neutralizing them on the spot. And we can do that over the course of 4 years. So let's work together. We can protect families, we can preserve properties, and we can provide hope together in partnership. So let's get to work. Thank you.
Do you sell these or lease these to cities?
We lease the product to cities on an annual basis.
So in the city of Miami, what probably would be more interesting is, you sort of touched upon it, but maybe didn't emphasize it as much as I would have liked, is the idea that you can detect squatters. For us, buildings don't burn that often. So the actual burning building, we do have a lot of abandoned properties, but the burning building is not as big of an issue as squatters, because once squatters are in, then you have the other problems that you're talking about with drug sales, just harassing neighbors and being bad neighbors.
Absolutely.
So how does it detect squatters?
So we pair wireless sensors with it. So we'll set those up on doors, on windows, and different things like that. Since we're a team of engineers, we're able to quickly prototype solutions for a city and custom that to your needs. And that's the interesting thing. We knew fires weren't important as much as we've been talking with cities, so that's why we've added this new capability, so we can serve cities like Miami and other cities across America here.
So what's the coverage of the squatter? The coverage of the squatter, the coverage of the product. For square feet and
okay. So
how many does it take in a house?
So one Casper per house, and then any number of sensors for whatever you want to measure. So typically the sensors are very low cost and cheap to manufacture. So if we can get more cities to buy in on a group buy together, it just makes it cheaper for everybody to put in.
I'm not going to ask you about blockchain. This is not South.
This is not a blockchain.
Not South, but no, I know. But so the cost. I was trying to do the math, but the cost of each sensor is.
So approximately what we're looking at is an upfront cost of $350 for the equipment to lease it, so I can build it, and then $250 per year to monitor.
Per sensor or per property?
Per house. Per house.
Have you brainstormed about other ways that this technology could be used?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I'm glad Wells Fargo is here. I'm glad Bank of America is here, because they're on our minds, because they own a lot of these foreclosed properties, and we want to be able to get into those as well. We're thinking also about just agriculture, farms. Any building that doesn't have power and you want to monitor it, that's where we fit in.
And access to the properties to install equipment where ownership might be in question, or a remote owner. How are the cities dealing with that?
Right. So in Louisville, Kentucky, the county attorney's office has ruled that we can use our policing powers to put them in private properties. And so we're able, for the same reason that you can board up these properties, we are going to be able to leave these devices behind, because it's a public safety issue for folks.
Do they have any residual value? Do they have the potential to themselves be a target of theft?
Yeah, in fact, in our first pilot, we had one stolen, and that's something we're concerned about. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Nathan. Next up, we have Elle Hempen of the Atlas.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Elle Hempen, co-founder and CEO of the Atlas Marketplace. Our mission is to help cities like yours R&D, or rip off and duplicate proven urban innovations. I'm glad to be here from sunny San Diego representing Team Atlas. We're led by 4 women under 40, 3 of us are former government officials, and 2 of us are active duty military spouses. We're also advised by 2 of your former colleagues, Mayor Nutter and Mayor Barry. I'm going to kick this off with 3 real quotes from some of our city partners. I have scrubbed their names in order to protect the innocent. I speak at 60 conferences a year solely to promote my city as a leader in innovation. I use Google to search for infrastructure solutions. I get up to 40 unsolicited sales calls and emails a day. For anybody who cares about making cities safer, smarter, and more sustainable, those quotes are really bad news, because it means our city officials are overwhelmed, constantly speaking to the same people and spending money on the same old stuff that's breaking around us every day. Cities will spend about $400 billion this year to upgrade their infrastructure and improve service delivery. We all know in this room that the need is much greater than that. Our cities don't have time to waste constantly recreating the wheel, but that's what's happening. The Atlas is built to change that. Instead of constantly recreating the wheel, the Atlas helps cities rip off and duplicate proven urban innovations. It functions as a free online community for city officials to help them do 3 things more easily. 1, share their own success stories. 2, learn more quickly about what's working in other cities. And 3, connect with each other and new partners to make real progress. I'm going to share some examples of how we're doing that with 3 of our partner cities for free, many of which are represented here in this room today. So I saw Mayor Liccardo earlier. We're working with the city of San Jose to share their success stories. Using the Atlas, San Jose has shared a series of projects they've done to use technology to improve safety, improve mobility, and reduce traffic. As a result, the city of San Jose was featured by news publications like Route 50 because of their citizen-driven smart cities strategies. I saw Mayor Turner earlier. We're working with the city of Houston to help them learn more efficiently about how other cities are building back better after disaster. Using the Atlas, Houston discovered a series of really cool stormwater management innovations, from sensors deployed at scale in Buenos Aires to really innovative community engagement tools in the city of Boulder. With just the click of a button, Houston now has access to hundreds of resilience projects from around the world, but more importantly, they have all the information they need to quickly evaluate whether that project is a good fit for Houston. That's because we capture everything from financing details to procurement documents to a list of quantifiable outcomes like number of dollars saved or amount of flooding that's been reduced. I saw Mayor Freeman Wilson here yesterday as well. We're working with the city of Gary to help them connect with people that can help. Using the Atlas, the city of Gary has connected with peers from Camden and Detroit to learn about successful workforce development programs tied to green infrastructure. They've also connected with new partners like outcomes-based financing firms or technology partners that can help them move forward with projects and folks that they never would have engaged with otherwise. As a result, the city of Gary has been able to jumpstart progress on upgrading its stormwater system to improve quality of life, but also do so in a way that's financially sustainable. As I said, all the support we provide to cities is free, so I'm sure you're asking how we can do that. We work with companies to translate their existing glossy marketing materials into searchable case studies that city officials can actually find, understand, interact with, ask questions about, and ultimately act on. We're working with 80 cities from across the country right now, and our goal is to really grow that to 200 or more, and we need your help. I've heard for the last couple of days about inclusion, about infrastructure, about innovation, about city-to-city sharing. That's what you all are about here at the Conference of Mayors, and that's what we're all about at the Atlas Marketplace. So, for your help, send us your most forward-looking city officials so we can help them R&D for your city. Thanks.
I saw a dot in Washington. Where are you at?
In the East Coast, Washington State. Sorry, we're working with Seattle, but nowhere else in Washington State yet. Love to have you come on board.
So at our last Civic Tech pitch competition in South by Southwest, we had another provider. And so can you tell us a little bit about the market in this space? Who's your number one competitor, and why? What distinguishes you from the next best?
Absolutely. There's a couple of folks that have built directories that function really as listings of different companies that play in this space. Most of them are focused only on tech solutions. So they're targeting CIOs or CTOs in a city, and they're looking at software solutions primarily. We take a much broader view than that. We're working with city managers, directors of public works, really looking at infrastructure and service delivery writ large across the city. And in that, we're working with to bring content forward from companies that are not only software solutions, but really cool hardware technology solutions like energy efficiency or wastewater to energy, and also design firms. So folks that are doing really creative things around system-wide stormwater management, for example, that we're working with, or really innovative financing firms.
And if I find a solution to a stormwater issue on the platform, is it distinguishable whether that solution was put there by the city of San Jose or by a private company?
Yep, absolutely. So the content that was uploaded by a company is branded, so you're able, and same with the city. There's a logo of the city that's on the project post itself. And that content, so you can distinguish between it, but you can also take credit for it. So companies have a real incentive to share what's working well on the ground, obviously. Cities do too. You guys want to talk about what's going so well for you. And so what the Atlas does is it allows a company to upload a project, and then it allows that city to take credit for it and take credit for all of the positive outcomes that are happening. So for example, SUFA and the city of Las Vegas have a shared post.
What would you do with the prize today?
Yeah, so we're focused on growth. So for us, we would use that money to invest back into the product. We just brought on our fourth team member, our CTO, who's awesome and really excited to get to work. And we've been asked by our cities to build out a lot of cool solutions like a Q&A forum that's closed so city officials can ask questions but not in a public session. We've been asked to do Atlas Lives, where city officials who can't respond to every question that they get but want to help other cities can spend an hour and do an Ask Me Anything. So building those kind of tools into the product is how we focus on spending the money.
I like the fact that you have some of the details that would normally accompany an idea, like finance details and procurement documents. So what other layers do you think that you will add if you were to win a prize like this? What other services do you think you can add or information that you can give to cities to be more effective?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we want to spend more time on is on the procurement database side. So really making procurement information available. Thank you guys so much. Thanks, everybody.
Great, and thank you. Our third contestant is Paul Salama of Clear Road.
Ride-hailing, bike share, autonomous vehicles. Your citizens are getting excited about the future of mobility, but it's keeping you up at night. You're thinking, how do I finally get a handle on traffic in my city? Electric scooters, are they going to take over my streets and sidewalks? I can't keep up with this. And what about parking revenue? Can my budget take the hit from a loss of parking revenue and fines? And what happens to my traffic agents when there aren't any tickets to give out? To top it off, my advisors are telling me if I don't get a handle on things, it's only going to get worse. We're here to help. My name is Paul Salama, and I'm the chief evangelist at Clear Road. I'm an urban planner and a technologist, and I joined Clear Road to give government the tools to create more livable, equitable, and sustainable cities. Clear Road is government's interface for road pricing, giving cities the upper hand in managing their streets, while enabling new revenue streams for that all-important next priority. So what does working with Clear Road look like? I'm going to take a random example here. Let's say Ubers are running rampant. Imagine that Ubers are running rampant in your city. They're clogging your streets. So you work with Clear Road to create a fair solution to charge them for their impacts. You should be charging them for surge pricing. Okay, let's pick another random example. I'm going to pick Jump Bikes, who's going to speak in about 15 minutes. Jump Bike gives you a call. Just to let you know, in the next month, we're going to drop 5,000 bikes on your city. Just to let you know. So you work with Clear Road to quickly define service area per bike fees and equity zones. Okay, one more totally random example, just so I'm not keeping anyone out, no corporate sponsors left out. Waymo, imagine 5 years in the future, Waymo's self-driving cars are prowling your streets, empty, looking for that next pickup. Never parking, never getting a ticket, not even paying for gas that funds the roads. But you've planned ahead. You've worked with Clear Road to define autonomous vehicle lanes that are charged a higher price than driving elsewhere, as well as curbside loading zones. This isn't science fiction. We use the same GPS data that these companies are using. Our solutions are flexible and tailorable to the local conditions and priorities. And we're software-based, so we can change things on the fly. Clear Road. We're building the tools to help you manage the future of mobility. let's work together.
So Paul, I understood the case and the outcomes, but what do you actually do? I mean, what does this actually do?
No, it's a good question. So we take the data from vehicles, and that could be a device, or if it could be the cell phone signal from an Uber via the Uber app. And we are the intermediary software. We have an API, and we take that data and turn that into transactions, basically. So we say, you drove 2 miles. So that is going to be 10 cents or 20 cents, whatever the local policy dictates.
Do I, in order to get that data about my trip, do I have to enable location services on my phone, or is it how do you get that information from me in the first place?
Sure. So we're already working in Oregon and Washington State on their projects, on the Origo and Washington RUC projects. So we can take data from vehicles, and those are opt-in programs right now. But those, several thousand cars, a few million miles, and we're tracking those and converting that into financial transactions. And actually, in Oregon, it's a full-on implementation, and you can do that instead of paying the gas tax, actually.
I think this is the wave of the future. I am a little bit scared about congestion pricing generally, as it's done in express lanes, because it's seen a little bit elitist. But I do think that when you talk about all the different modalities of getting around, that there has to be some pricing component to making sure that cities and counties whose infrastructure is being taxed are in fact recovering some of that cost. So how do you have to work with these other apps, or do you work outside of the other apps? How does that work?
Right. So we're agnostic to the data collection methods. So it could be, we could use the vehicle data itself. So like if you're a Tesla, Tesla is collecting that data about you. GM, BMW, any of these cars are already doing that. If it's Uber or Lyft, they're already grabbing that data. And so we're just creating a standardized interface.
But how do you get it? In other words, do you have to work with the companies, or just, like, for example, would the city pass an ordinance that says that now every company that does all these different modalities is subject to working with this company? How does that work?
Yes. So it would be creating a data standard, but not going through the process of creating a 300-page data sharing agreement that, let's say if you're New York City, for example, that you've already done to say, okay, Uber, Lyft, you're going to share it in this fashion. You just have to share it in the standard API, and we're using terminologies of the tech scene to say, like, they can do it. It's very simple. So. All right. Thanks.
Our fourth pitch this morning is from Noel Marcus of Nesterly. Noel.
Hello, everyone. I am Noel Marcus, and I am the co-founder and CEO of Nesterly. Nesterly tackles the two very big challenges of urban housing affordability and aging in place with one simple solution. We pair older households who have extra space in their homes with younger people who are looking for a place to stay for longer than a month. Now, I don't have very much time with you, so I'm going to tell you a story. I want you to meet Brenda. Brenda lives in Roxbury in Boston. She lives in a beautiful townhouse that's been in her family since 1946. But it's been a few years since her kids moved out, and with her recent retirement, the strain and cost of caring for this entire home all by herself is really starting to wear on her. Brenda's got an empty nest. Now, just a couple metro stops away, Phoebus is about to start his 5-month fellowship at MIT. He's an architecture student, he cares about cities, he cares about community, but he's really looking for a more meaningful and affordable experience than the campus dorm. So with Nesterly, Brenda and Phoebus got to connect, and they came to an arrangement where Phoebus pays a more affordable rate for a room in Brenda's home, and he helps her out a couple hours a week gardening and around the house. But most importantly, as you can see, Brenda and Phoebus actually became friends. Brenda gave him architectural tours around her neighborhood, and Phoebus cooked her Greek meals. So Brenda and Phoebus's struggles are not unique. In the United States, as many of you know, half of all renters are paying an unsustainable portion of their income on rent. At the same time, the aging population in the US is skyrocketing. By 2035, 1 out of every 3 households in the US will be headed by someone over the age of 65. And half are projected to live alone. When you ask folks, similar to Brenda, 90% say they want to age in their homes and age in their communities. But they face similar challenges to Brenda: fixed and limited incomes, increasing home maintenance costs, and declining social networks. So this is why we built Nesterly. Nesterly takes this age-old idea of intergenerational home sharing and brings it into the digital age. And this is how it works. Users create profiles, we background check and vet everyone on the platform, then users can connect, meet, and agree to their home share terms. We also provide support throughout the duration of their home share and at each step of this process. So I'm here today because we want to partner with cities like you. We started this project as 2 master's students from MIT. Within 2 weeks of graduating, we had a signed partnership with the city of Boston. And that has been wildly successful. We've already paired 25 local Brenda and Phoebuses, and we're now relaunching the platform and scaling to the entire region. We believe that we're building a movement, and we want to have cities on our side so that we can ensure that the millions of older households can benefit from the extra space in their home, both safely and legally. And we believe we can do that with mayors like you. So if you just remember one story from this pitch, I hope you really remember Brenda and Phoebus. And if you remember one phrase, it's that we cannot build ourselves out of this housing crisis. Thank you.
So what's the cost to the city?
So we are different than other sharing economy companies that we want to launch in cities in partnerships with mayors. We piloted with the city of Boston to do a very small pilot and do 8 matches, and they were able to sponsor us. But it's more than just the money that the city provided. It's about getting the word out, making sure older homeowners know about this opportunity and are educated about the opportunity, and also know what local regulations apply to them so that they understand that this is legal and safe for them to do.
There's a lot to like about this, and it's efficient use of home stock, and it's addressing the kind of senior isolation issue. But could you go into more detail about how you would actually get seniors to use this? I mean, I've heard the phrase, even grandma's on Facebook. I mean, I get that, but at the same time, I think we have to recognize that in this age demographic, usage of these types of apps is probably relatively low right now. So how would you really focus in on that? That seems like the one gap here.
Exactly. So yeah, usage of this is low because we're the only people in the world doing this. However, we've designed this platform really hand in hand with the city and with local community organizations. So we've been user testing the platform throughout our entire design and research process. But it's true, a lot of people on Facebook, a lot of people are using apps. And we've been partnering with organizations like AARP, with local community organizations, with religious institutions, and really we're targeting people that could just be entering retirement, that could be recent empty nesters. These people could be 55 years old, and many of our first customers are. They're 55 years old, their last kid went off to school, and they want to stay in their home. And so for them, this is a very simple app to create their profile, and it's really not super difficult.
But you have people that will work with them directly, like
Exactly.
numbers they can call and talk them through it?
Yes, so that's why we partner with local organizations, with cities, and have places where they can go to help sign up. We're looking at partnering with the libraries in Boston, So they can go to their computer lab, and they can also call us.
What kind of vetting do you do of the prospective tenants?
So we actually vet both sides of the platform. We vet both the older households and the tenants because we need to make sure that everyone on the platform goes through a multi-tier screening process. So first, we actually have them go through a identity verification. So we check their address, their name, their social security number, and then we also ask for 2 reference checks and a complete application. And then we offer optional background checks. So if people want to run more rigorous criminal or sex offender checks, we can do that as well. Yep.
So when as the city becomes involved, do we assume any of the liability?
No, you do not.
Okay.
Good question. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last pitch of the session is Joel Mahoney of Open Counter.
Good morning, Sharks. Morning. I'm Joel, co-founder and CEO of Open Counter. So, when residents set out to open a business or renovate a home or host a special event, they face complex requirements from the city. They need permits and licenses to get started, and their projects must conform to the zoning code, building code, and health and safety codes. These requirements can be daunting for applicants to interact with, especially when departments are spread out across the city. I'm going to pick on Boston here. You know, the permitting department is 3 miles from City Hall in Boston. Or when departments have different hours of operation. Many cities are still recovering from staff cuts after the financial crisis. Or just speak kind of different terminology and procedures. These, seemingly little details can really trip applicants up in the process and ultimately can lead to compliance issues down the road. So that's why we built Open Counter. Open Counter guides applicants through complex permitting and licensing procedures and streamlines their interactions with City Hall. So the software walks applicants through a 5-step permit discovery process that fully estimates their permit requirements and fees. We start with the project type. This allows applicants to enter everyday kind of descriptions of their projects like yoga studio and get back the appropriate land use codes from the planning department. Behind the scenes, we've actually trained this search feature on the entire corpus of Wikipedia data so that it's making these natural connections between what applicants say and the language of City Hall. The next step is a zoning map. And most of you have zoning maps online. This is a zoning map tailored to this particular project. So this zoning map is showing this yoga studio where in the city of San Diego they're permitted, conditionally permitted, or prohibited. It's worth noting that we're trying to boil this down to a very simple, clear sense of the clearance, but we're calculating the clearance through, in this case, 12 different layers of zoning overlays. So trying to hide a lot of complexity in the software and not expose that to applicants. When we know the project is permitted, we start to ask questions about the project to scope out the permits. If you watch the right-hand column, you see that those permits are aggregating in real time as the applicant types. When we know which permits they need, we start asking questions about, that we know will trigger fee calculations on those permits. And if you watch closely in the right-hand column, you'll see that these fees are actually updating in real time as applicants type. So we're hoping to build kind of a TurboTax-like experience for permitting and licensing. And the idea is that if people can see the consequences of their decisions in real time, maybe that will help them make more informed choices for the project. The final step is a summary. We show them all the permits they've triggered. We let them drill down and learn why it's on the list. And importantly, we show them the total cost of the project. And our goal is hopefully, if this is more money than an applicant was anticipating, let's save them from a trip to City Hall and let's save staff time on an unnecessary pre-application meeting. If they're ready to move forward, we log them in, we show them all their permits on a project dashboard, and we give them instructions for each of those permits on how to move forward. And this spans multiple systems, so if there's already a system of record, we can point them in that direction. If it's an in-person application, we point them to the right department, and we're trying to just move them forward through this process and give them the big picture. Why is this important? To paraphrase from the World Bank, if you streamline business permitting, you get more businesses and you get more jobs. If you streamline construction permitting, you get more construction and you get more of a property tax base for the city. So this is a really win-win for everyone. Words of consolation to all of you in the audience who don't end up winning the HQ2 RFP. 2 out of 3 net new jobs are created by small businesses, and there's a lot that you can do to help them. And who knows, maybe you'll interact with guys like these and give them a business license, and 40 years later, you'll have a $5 billion corporate campus in the same town where they started their project. So Open Counter was incubated at Code for America in 2012. We're live in 50 cities across the country. You can learn more at opencounter.com. Thank you.
Quick question. So it wasn't 100% clear. Can you actually get a permit with the?
Yes, you can. So you can apply through our system and pay for permits online.
And you can close the permit as well?
Correct.
Wow. Can we sign up?
You may.
Awesome.
It seems like a lot of this is the upfront cost of encoding, making a computational code and all from all these different departments. So what's the dollar proposition for cities of a large city or a small city to get started?
It ranges from a base of around $15,000 a year up to $200,000 a year.
And there's not an initial fee at the point where you have to take the entire zoning code and
that includes first year configuration. So there is quite a bit of work. Our accounts team comes from the public sector. We're hiring planners who can kind of speak the language of City Hall and navigate this information. We try to do as much work as we can ahead of time and essentially have the city vet our work and make sure it's accurate.
What makes your platform different than others?
Well, I think it's both a focus on the applicant. I mean, we really started with the big picture of the applicant experience in mind. We didn't build this for one department. We built it for the person who's trying to open a restaurant with a brick oven and alcohol service and outside seating who, they're gonna have to interact with 10 different departments in the city. So we're trying to build that kind of router that can sit on top of potentially other permitting systems and really give them that broad roadmap for their whole project.
Do you enlist local expertise outside of City Hall? I mean, every city, it seems, has some experts that kind of have made a living of helping people navigate this process. Do you reach out to those kinds of people as well?
Definitely. We've had some very interesting conversations. I mean, we hear, horror stories. People sign leases in areas where their particular project isn't zoned to be there. We talk to real estate developers who, they have kind of an inside track on this information, but there are so many different personas that interact with this information, including, we've had conversations with major Silicon Valley consumer companies that would love to have programmatic access to zoning data in their consumer platforms. So there's so many, this is critical information. This governs trillions of dollars of real estate development. So it's so important for so many different people.
How long does it take you to develop it in a given city? And how do you work with different governments? Because, for example, our permitting process sometimes involves other governments, and that could be sort of what clogs the process.
Yes. It's typically a 3 to 6 month configuration timeline, which is very fast. We have a lot of testimonials from customers about how amazed they are at how fast we can work, and I think that's a testament to our account team that really understands this data.
Can you do it from your phone?
Yep, it's totally mobile friendly. We did a partnership with Charlotte and Mecklenburg County that was an integrated county-city project that went very well, so we do that. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
All right, weren't those pictures great? A round of applause for all of our presenters, please. I again want to invite you, if you haven't done so already, you have about a minute left to log on your vote and vote, which you can do inside your USCM mobile app for your iPhone, your iPad, and also your Android. While we add up the votes, we're now going to have the pleasure to see the winning pitch from Civic IO at South by Southwest this past March. Nusha Ghali is the president and co-founder of BioBot Analytics, which is based just across the river in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Please welcome Nusha, please.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Nusha Gailey, president and co-founder of BioBot Analytics. We are an MIT spinout, so across the river. Welcome to Boston. Welcome. Please visit Cambridge if you haven't been already. At BioBot, we're leveraging wastewater as a window into population health. And it's really based on a simple concept. Everybody pees every day. And we know that urine contains a lot of information about our health and well-being. Our doctors look at it all the time. And this rich source of human health information is collected and aggregated in our city sewers, an infrastructure that you own, that you manage, and that you maintain. At BioBot Analytics, we're transforming sewage into continuous health data that's representative of everybody in our communities. Now, while the concept is simple, the work actually isn't so straightforward. Wastewater epidemiology requires many different disciplines across biology, chemistry, engineers working together across many different departments in your cities in order to actually deliver this service. At BioBot, we're a team of biologists, architects, engineers, and chemists, and we offer a full service solution in order to implement this. And it starts on the ground. This is Herbie from Cambridge Public Works. It takes Herbie and his team about 10-15 minutes to deploy our devices. Every 2 weeks, they retrieve the samples, it takes about 5 minutes, and they ship them back to our labs, where we have a dedicated staff to analyze these wastewater samples. We then take all this data and we visualize it into reports for city officials like yourselves. For city officials like Mike Bajorek. Mike is the deputy town manager for Cary, North Carolina, and Mike is a big baseball fan. So for anyone who's seen Moneyball or who is familiar with Billy Beane, Mike believes that our work has the potential to do for public health what Billy Beane and data analytics did for baseball. We're working with Mike and his team on our first application to measure sewage in order to estimate consumption of opioids in our cities. We're developing a new standard to assess the opioid epidemic across America. While we're familiar with all the national statistics and the devastating human toll that this is costing, it's also posing a big, big impact on our city services. So much so that actually 10 days ago, Huntington, Virginia's police and fire departments announced that they are no longer responding to overdose calls. And the data that we have to make a lot of these city decisions and policy decisions is extremely reactive. It's essentially just counting overdoses. This limited data is driving billions of dollars of federal aid across the United States each year. This data is just limited to extreme users. It doesn't represent everybody who's suffering from opioid use disorder. And moreover, this data is extremely reactive. This plot was published by the New York Times in June of 2017 and represents overdose deaths to 2015 only. What's clear is that we're measuring the wrong thing. So at BioBot Analytics, we're measuring consumption representative of everybody. We are able to measure illicit drugs such as heroin and fentanyl, prescription opioids such as oxycodone, codeine, and morphine, as well as substitution therapies like methadone and Suboxone and Narcan as well. We then visualize this data, and it helps you assess the epidemic in your city, redistribute resources accordingly, inform your programming based on the types of opioids most commonly used, and finally, evaluate response, evaluate the efficacy of interventions that you're deploying in your city. Our vision is to build the new gold standard in order to understand how our response is doing. So we're really moving from this reactive way into proactively understanding consumption. We're providing more frequent statistics, bi-weekly statistics, and bringing about a new level of granularity in our cities. We've been working with Cambridge, Massachusetts as a development partner over the last several months. We are now live in Cary in North Carolina, and Cary has been selected by the Bloomberg Mayor's Challenge as a champion city to implement this solution. And we're looking for about 4 to 5 more cities to deploy with this year in 2018. So if you're interested in working with us, please come talk to either myself or my co-founder later today. But beyond opioids, this platform can actually do so much more. We can begin to build out an early warning system for the next infectious disease outbreak, or understand the emergence of antibiotic resistance genes in our communities. We can begin to measure nutrition disparities in our communities. What kinds of foods are people eating? And what about exposures to contaminants such as pesticides? And finally, we can understand all sorts of substances that are being used to inform policy to curb unhealthy habits or promote healthy ones. This work was based on 5 years of award-winning research at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. This is my co-founder, Mariana Matus, who's here in the audience somewhere, and she started this work as a part of her PhD in computational biology. Mariana is probably one of the only scientists in the world, or one of a few scientists in the world, who can actually do this work. When I heard about what Mariana was doing, the idea really resonated with me, and then I joined, bringing my background in architecture and urban science to help implement in cities. Together, we're passionate about leveraging our skills to tackle one of the most fundamental issues impacting our cities today, and we would love it if you could join us on this mission. Finally, I have one small request from all the mayors in the room right now. If you could please go to this link. We have a short survey. We would love to understand what other health priorities you have in your cities. We're interested in the aggregate results, but if you also leave your city name, we can reach out to you directly, and there's little cards on your tables which also have this link. Thank you very much.
Is the future of American innovation bright? Are you guys excited about this? Amazing, isn't it? It's amazing. These young, bright, sharp, global minds are doing incredible things. Before we announce the winners, today's pitch is sponsored by Uber. Joining us today with some brief remarks is Ryan Japetsky. Ryan's the founder and CEO of Jump Bikes, a dockless electric bike share company that Uber acquired earlier this year. Please welcome Ryan to the stage.
Thank you very much. My name is Ryan Japetsky. I'm the founder and CEO of Jump, a company recently acquired by Uber as part of their broader multimodal vision. And it wasn't too long ago that I was up on stages making pitches similar to these folks here today. For me, it began in 2008. And I had a simple idea to take the locking technology out of the bike docking station and put it onto the bike itself. Each bike can have an integrated lock with GPS tracking, and users could find and book the bikes through a mobile app on their phone. The lock would work with regular bike racks rather than rely on special infrastructure. And after several years of prototyping, we launched the first dockless bike share systems all the way back in 2012. Since then, Jump has designed, supplied, and operated bike share systems across 40 projects in 6 countries. We now operate fully electric dockless bike share in San Francisco, Sacramento, and West Sacramento, Santa Cruz, Washington, D.C., and are quickly scaling to other cities. So who here has actually used an electric bike before? It's about the 4th or 5th room. For those that haven't, it is truly a game-changing technology. It makes you feel superhuman. It measures how hard you're pedaling and naturally gives you a boost, amplifying your own natural abilities. This is not just a minor evolution in technology. It is a major transformation. It is a new mode of transportation. And I think that the potential of dockless plus electric bikes can change cities all over the world if done properly. And as pioneers of both dockless and electric bikes, we've learned a lot about how bike share systems work best in communities. First, riders need to have reliable access to bikes no matter where they live or work in the city. And secondly, non-riders need to be assured that the bikes will be deployed in a controlled and responsible manner that doesn't block the public right-of-way or create clutter. Now, that last point is critical. If we don't prioritize smart technology and the urban landscape as a whole, we end up with this. In each of these places, bike share companies have grown by oversupplying the amount of bikes. And so with tens of thousands of bikes on the street, riders don't ever have to worry about finding a nearby bike. But that convenience comes at a cost, and that cost is borne by non-riders and the rest of the city. And so we're proud that we've taken a different path, one that considers the impact on cities and non-riders as well. And we took this approach in part because of my background. I have a master's in urban planning, and I worked for the New York City Department of Transportation for about a year and a half as a bike planner before I started the company. So I have an appreciation for how cities work and how important it is to consider all users of a street when developing a project. For example, in any of your cities, if you wanted to add a new bus stop, you don't just look at how the users of the bus will respond to this. You think about how the travel lane will be impacted and how pedestrians will be impacted as well. And bike share is no different. It has to work for everybody, riders and non-riders, and the entire city. So with all the buzz around dockless bike share, is there a way to get it right? We think that there are two regulatory goals that can create a successful program. One, a Lock 2 requirement, and two, a utilization requirement. So first, Lock 2. It really does make a difference. When a rider ends their trip, they have to make a thoughtful action with the bike to find a rack and lock it properly. If the bike isn't locked correctly, we know which rider to hold accountable and can take appropriate action. And as a result, we see extremely high rates of parking compliance and low rates of complaints. Now, if you compare that to the dockless model where there's just a wheel lock, you constantly see bikes falling over and ending up in inappropriate places. And you don't really know if it was the last user or somebody that just came along on the street that maybe puts it inside a tree. And so one is the Lock 2 requirement, and two is utilization. So we've been strong advocates for caps that are based on utilization rates. This is probably the most important challenge that you guys have as regulators. If too few bikes are permitted, you're going to risk setting the program up for failure and stifling innovation. If there's too many bikes, the streets are going to end up really cluttered. So we feel the number of bikes should be proportionate to the amount of people using those bikes. If a particular company's fleet is being used more than twice a day and not generating complaints, they should be allowed to expand. And that gives the residents the power in allowing systems to expand. If they're using the bikes, let them grow. If they're not, keep them capped. Don't have this oversupply. But it's still important to realize that in supporting dockless bike share and cycling in general, it's going to require a massive reallocation of our street space. Because right now, we prioritize the car, with vast amounts of on-street and off-street parking turned over to vehicles. And so most cities are recognizing the impacts of this and making changes and creating more bike lanes and bike parking. But we think that dockless bike share will be a significant catalyst to this and push it forward. And if we want dockless bike share to be more organized and less chaotic, we need to provide the parking space for the bikes to be placed. And changing our cities to support people, not cars, is the central challenge facing transportation planners today. In most cities, biking, public transit, and rideshare represent just 5 or 10% of trips collectively, but we see a path to significantly increase those numbers, particularly now that we have joined Uber. So for trips in a central city, our e-bikes are faster, cheaper, and more fun than riding in a car. And since we launched SF with our partnership with Uber, we've seen mode shift actually happen and people choosing a bike rather than booking a car. Our average trip length is 2.6 miles. So that shows this is not just about first and last mile, but it's really replacing car trips and serving for the entire journey. And so rather than seeing this as competition, Uber saw it as an opportunity to address the problems with the personal automobile ownership. If you want people to give up their cars, you have to provide a service that is at least as convenient and reliable as a personal vehicle. No one mode is going to be able to meet the need, but by combining on-demand car rides with e-bikes and car share and public transit, Uber is in a unique position to meaningfully change the way people travel by delivering a better service than a personal car by combining the best that each mode has to offer. So we want to have a chance to work with all of you, your staff and the mayors in this room, to devise a transportation network that works for every resident, whether they're taking public transit, Uber Pool, or riding a bike. We believe that if we optimize every trip for the right mode, we'll change the way we're building cities and prioritize roads for people rather than cars. Now, the first step on this may be responsible growth of bike sharing, but the longer road ahead, helping people make smarter mobility choices that limit congestion and pollution, that's what I'm most excited about. And I look forward to working with all of you to help build that future.
I want to thank Ryan. At this time, I'd like for our 5 finalists to come out on stage as we announce the results. First off, those were all great pitches, and we're really excited to see how each of your concepts and ideas continue to grow. Each of our participants will leave with at least a $1,000 check for thank you today for participating. We're proud of you guys and look forward to great things from you. Winner of our second place award will have a $5,000 award, and our first place winner will receive $10,000. So now, our second place winner is Nesterly. And our first year's first place winner in this year's pitch goes to Open Counter. Everyone, a round of applause for all of today's winners and our participants. I want to thank you all for joining us this morning. Please feel free to talk to some of our young entrepreneurs and innovators. We look forward to seeing all of you back at the Plenary Luncheon at 1 p.m. back here in this room. Before then, we have 2 forums taking place from 11:30 to 12:30. One forum is a 24-hour mayor, making the evening safe and vibrant, and the other is autonomous vehicles in the American city. We hope to see you at these events. This session is adjourned.
Dream of a land my soul is from. I hear a hand stroke on the drum. Shades of deep.